I have access.
Hello, Shane. Hello, Evo. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us join here virtually. We're sorry that we couldn't make it to Denver in person, but I'm really excited to still have the opportunity to introduce myself here online and also talk to you guys about Access. So, by way of intro, my name is Quansah, and I am the new Access Program Manager who has replaced McCall only about 3 weeks ago. So not even a month yet, so I'm still quite early in the learning stage, and you can absolutely call me the new guy. Trust me, I won't be offended. But with that, I still have a lot to learn about the product, and that's why I'm really excited to be with you all today to learn from your knowledge and hear more about how you've been able to be successful with Access. Joining me is my all-star veteran, Shane Groff, who has been our chief developer developing Access for the past 30 years, which I believe 30 years, which is older than me. So just to give you some perspective there. So every single version of Access since V1, Shane has been developing and improving upon for all of you. So really excited to have him here to cover a lot of the technical work that we've been doing and to help answer a lot of the questions that you may have. So without further ado, we can get to the next slide. I'd like to start by saying thank you. I really cannot emphasize this enough because of all the work that you've done with this product has been insurmountable and incomparable across Office. Access is so important to Microsoft, and I recently just joined this team because it's also very important to me. So we really appreciate all of you for helping us make this product successful and for telling us what we as Microsoft can do to drive it to the next level. So what will we be covering today? First, I'll run you guys through a quick overview of Access and discuss ways to submit feedback. Then we'll show you how much we care and listen to that feedback by illustrating our growth and our help content satisfaction. Then we'll focus more on the product, highlighting Access in Office, what's new, demoing some of our new features, and discussing our roadmap. And then to close it off, we'll talk about how you can become more active and engaged with the Access community before leaving time for Q&A. So we will have a session for Q&A at the end, so save your questions for then. We'll also still read the comments that you have in the interim as well. So yeah, we can get started. So what is Access? You're all great experts, so I will not humor you too much on redefining the product itself, but the key here in that first bullet is that it's mission critical, meaning it enables people like you and several other users out there to create apps that are critical to their business objectives quickly and easily, whether that involves building several applications on top of each other, using VBA code to build more complex macros, or just building a quick query that captures relationships between two simple tables. So that's all to say that there are many different ways to solve business needs in Access, and that's what makes it so incomparable to other products. Something that we couldn't be happier about in that next bullet is that Access is used by 95% of our Fortune 500 companies today. And that's also based off of the work and applications that you have been building. So the way that you all have contributed to this usage metric is eye-opening, and we're really looking forward to continue progressing on that growth. We also know that Access is deeply wired across all companies, where the utilization of Access is independent of the size of the organization that it's run by. Even if it's bought by a large or small company or an individual consumer, it's readily used and available at any and all costs. It's a sticky product because even though it's been more and more integrated into Office 365 world recently, it'd still be very successful with a very strong user base if it was only left as its own product to purchase. And then finally, last but not least, Access is not dead and the world needs to know. I know the question of Access dying has been asked by several users, but I cannot emphasize how untrue that is. We are continuing to work hard to develop new features in Access and to expand significantly on our user base. And thanks to people like all of you, we're continuing to make this product even better than it ever was before, and to ensure that we're taking all necessary actions to make this product better and bring it to the next level. So with that, there are several ways to submit feedback on the product, whether that's on user voice at the top, which gives you the opportunity to express your thoughts and concerns for us to review and take action on. Within the actual app on the left, where you can go into the help button, submit feedback, and contact our support team. You can also see that nice little smiley on the top right too, which is another quick way for you to tell us what you like or don't like and to give suggestions. Or you can go into the Access Tech Community page, where we can have open dialogues about what's going on in our world, and for you all to submit any questions that you might have in mind for us to answer. And then finally, if you want to provide feedback on our help and support content as well, which I'm actually going to go deeper in the slide from now, you can do that. So that is all to say that we really, truly do appreciate your feedback and we want to hear more. This is so important, as I've already said many times now, because we really listen, learn from, and respond to your thoughts and opinions. So please, please keep them coming. Go now into the product, Access in Office 365, and the reason why I call it Office 365 instead of 2019 is because of our efforts within the Office ecosystem, which has been heavily directed towards subscriptions. So everything that we ship for Office 365, which is subscription-based, is updated on a more regular cadence, whether that's monthly or there are certain instances where if you're an enterprise customer, you can opt for a semi-annual or less frequent updates as well. So in the subscriptions on the left, any recent investments or changes that we make within O365 will reflect more often into your systems, versus on the right, this kind of license is more effective when it comes to the time to ship a new perpetual version, like we did for Access 2019, where we just bundle everything together, ship it, and sell that new version as a perpetual license. Keep in mind though, that if you have purchased Access 2019, you already have almost all of our new and improved features in Access, including modern charts, which just made it. But because we're continuing to grow and we've been in a much more consistent process of improving upon your feedback, you can have the opportunity to see these new developments much quicker on a subscription basis in Office 365, instead of having to wait until 2022 for the new version of Access, and that's exactly what we would encourage. Next slide. So some of you might say, well, I don't know what version of Office I have. How can I check? It's quite simple, actually. Just check the splash screen on the left there, which will show you whether you have the Office 365 subscription version, like in this example, or rather one of the perpetual versions, depending on your activated license year. Or you can just go to your product info on the right, which will just show you the license product info, the update label, the channel, build number, etc. And all that information will be right there at your fingertips. That said, if you do have more questions about how you can find the most recent version or how you can understand what version of Office or Access you have, feel free to reach out to both Shane and I at the end of the session, or to just shoot us an email if you are more comfortable, and we'd be more happy to help. So what's new? Some of these new features have been around for longer, like big int or large number support, as well as our database support that came back after we received feedback that you guys wanted it back. And some are rather new, like our modernized charts, which just made it to the 2019 version, and modernized tabs, which was just developed in Office 365 after we shipped 2019. And there are several others, like property sheet sorting, link table manager, label name property for controls, and the list goes on. How can you learn more? By clicking either of those links on the bottom, or by simply typing into your browser what's new in Access. You'll have more than enough information you need to know about everything that's going on in the Access community. And so now with that, I will hand my many slides over to Shane, who will go through more of the new features in detail and provide some demos for you all.
Yeah. Maybe turn it. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm sure I've met a number of you. I was at Denver last year in person. So I'm basically just going to walk through a demo. Some of these things are a little bit older, like the large number support. But in case you haven't seen them, or maybe you're still on an older version, it'll show you what's in current versions. Yeah, and then you can ask questions about any of these when we get to the end. So let me switch to my demo. So prior to our changes to add support for large numbers, the number type in Access only supported integers, so up to 2 to the 32nd power. Large numbers go up to the 64th power. I don't remember what the decimal representation is, but this did require a change to our database format. So if you do use large numbers in a database, it means that it's no longer compatible with older versions of Access. So you'll need to be aware of that. In fact, let's see, I'll show you. So you set this on a database level. This is the new option here. If you click it, it will tell you that if you choose this, you'll no longer be compatible with 2013. It'll still be compatible with 2016, but not 2013 or earlier. So large number support is now, I can add a new column with a large number type. And again, I'll get the warning if I do that it won't be compatible. I can also add them in table design view. Okay. So one of the primary reasons for doing this was that people had SQL tables with large numbers, and Access half supported that scenario by treating the large number as a text field, but that had certain problems. In particular, it meant that if I linked to a SQL table that had a large number as its primary key, so let me demonstrate that. That you would get this behavior, which is obviously not desirable. So with the large number support, we'll fix that. So let me actually turn it on now. And if I refresh this link, now you can see that I see the large number correctly, and I can have values that are larger than a regular number field could support. Yep. And just similarly, that's a number, this is a large number. If I try to put a sufficiently large number, it doesn't work there, but it will work here. So that's all the behavior, pretty basic, but it enables some scenarios for SQL Server that were broken before. So useful for some people. Okay. Yeah, there's the decimal representation. Okay. For modern charts, this is the new charting engine. It's used in Excel as well. For our initial release, we have a limited set of chart types we support. Some of the pictures you see here are not chart types we support yet, but if there are chart types that you would like to see in Access that we don't support yet, Access user voice is probably the best place, but give us feedback that you'd like to see something, and hopefully we'll do another rev on the chart functionality and add some more chart types. We have, of course, the existing charting engine, but those charts look pretty old. They don't handle high DPI scenarios very well. The editing experience is somewhat unfriendly, so we tried to improve upon those various aspects.
Shane, this is
Yep.
Jim Pilcher.
Yeah.
We got a question for you. Can you see the questions that are coming up in the chat window?
I had the chat window open, but it wasn't scrolling down, so I didn't see them. Let's see.
Can you see?
Tom asked about other SQL Server data types.
Supporting other SQL Server data types. I don't have an answer for how close, but definitely if it's something that you would like to see us do, make sure we get that feedback either through user voice or contacting us directly. It's definitely on our, we definitely have on our list improving interaction with SQL Server. I did, of course, forget. I don't think we have anything currently on our backlog for Oracle, but again, if it's something that's important to you, please put it on user voice so that other people can see it as well, and then we can see how common the need is. it's always a game of figuring out what our priorities should be based on what people need. So if you're not using O365, and possibly even if you are, I'm not sure if this is on the semi-annual channel builds yet. This is the new home screen, which has a different look. It brings up your recently used files along with the home, new, and open, and in particular, the options dialog is right there, even when you don't have you haven't had to click open file to get there. That was kind of annoying on the old dialog, but when there are changes to shared office stuff like startup screens, we'll often pick that up and access as well. Back to my database. Also, you can see I'm using the dark theme, the black theme here. That's a new addition for Access. We used to only support colorful and white. So for those of you who are fans of the dark look, it's there now. And this is also the new ribbon look, which is turned on in Insiders now. It's not on in production yet, but if you are signed up for Insiders, you'll see the new ribbon look and can give us feedback on what you think of that. And then also we have the new document tabs, which put the close button directly on the tab, so you don't have to reach over all the way to the right. Also, you can drag and drop to rearrange the tabs. And they also just look a little more like tabs you're probably familiar with from browsers. Yeah, I think that's the common things. Okay. Okay, I'm going to start by just building a simple chart from scratch. So I'll do that in a form. So the chart entries here, which lets you choose which type of chart you want. So we have a couple different column charts, bar charts, which are just columns on their side, line charts, pie chart, and then the combo, which lets you combine different chart types into one chart. And I'll show an example of that. So we have two ways to, two panes here now where we can set properties and attributes on charts. The property sheet sets properties that are applied to the whole chart. So for example, chart title is set through the property sheet. And then in chart settings, I can choose my data. So I'm going to choose, this is a query which has sales with some joined data. And I'm going to show by region. So region on the category axis, and then amount. It defaults to doing a sum aggregate for number of fields. So for each region, it shows the amount of sales for that region. And then the other thing in the chart settings pane is I can do the settings on what we call series. So this chart only has a single series. If I had multiple series, they would show up as multiple bars in this case because it's a clustered column chart. I'll show some examples of that. But this is where I set, so for example, if I wanted to change the name of the series, I could set that here. I can change colors and so forth. Let's see. Yep. Okay, so I have some pre-built charts just to save time and show you what kinds of things can be done. So this is a stacked column chart where I've broken down for each strategy. It shows me the total sales, and then the colored bars represent the number of the sales for each product, as shown down here. And then there's various options you can set. So for example, here I've told it to display units of thousands. So it doesn't say 8,000, 7,000, 6,000, it just says 876, but tells you that it's displaying thousands. Here's a similar chart, but instead of the stacked columns, I'm using clustered columns, but then I have, this is what we call the combo chart. It's got the column chart combined with a line chart. Another thing you can see here is that the scale for the columns is here on the left, and the scale for the line is here on the right. So in the property sheet, you'll see properties for the primary value axis and the secondary value axis. So I can control those things independently. This is just to show a bar chart versus a column chart. And we have pie charts. This is just demonstrating if I put multiple fields on the category axis, then it's breaking down. So here it's breaking down by year, and then for each year it's breaking down by region. This is the stock chart showing the traditional volume on the bottom. So this is the scale for the volume on the right, and then the values on the left with high, low, and close. This chart took a little bit of tweaking because we don't actually have a built-in high, low, close chart, but with some creativity you can get things done. So one of the things with, this is just a form with the sales for each sales rep. One of the limitations with subforms though is that I can't have a continuous form, so I have to show them one at a time. With our new charts, and actually that was a limitation for our old charts as well. With our new charts, you can put our new charts on a continuous form, and they're linked to the parent record on the form. So this is, each chart is showing the sales for the employee in that record. And then finally, I just wanted to show the chart properties should all be settable at runtime. So in this case, I'm showing sales by product, but I can change the axis at runtime to show region instead. Or we can do the multiple category option, or I can set a legend, format it that way. So this is, it's not a replacement for our pivot charts that we had in 2010, but it lets you get some similar functionality with a little bit of work. Okay, that's charts. Moving forward, link table manager. Our old link table manager had a number of limitations, so we tried to remove those, and this is actually something we're still making improvements to, so feel free to continue giving
Shane?
us. Yeah.
We have a question for you, Phil.
Okay.
Yeah, so with the old charting, you could put to kind of a data picture at the bottom, data legend, which might have some data on your points as opposed to putting them in the graph. Is there any capability with the new charting to have that?
I'm not sure. You mean to see the actual numbers that are being graphed on the chart,
Yeah.
To see the data table? There isn't, although you could build something that looks something like that by basically just putting a subform that displays the query that you're using to drive the form. If you have a specific example that you would like to mimic using new charts that you could do with old charts, you can send me an example and I'll tell you if I think we could do that with new charts. But it doesn't have that built into the charting itself.
Okay.
Thank you, Shane.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, let me just go into the demo here. So I have a lot of link tables here. One of the first things it's a minor complaint, but it was an issue that if you had long names in the old link table manager, they would chop off the names and there was no way you could see the whole thing. So we made the dialog resizable so you can see more text. So that was the first thing. You can see that it's grouping things by data source. So I have my access, links to access databases, I have some DBase links, Dynamics, Excel, etc. And under each of those is some set of links within that source. So I've got multiple sheets within an Excel workbook. I've got multiple tables linked from a particular access database, and so forth. The search box actually isn't turned on yet, but it will be soon. So this is why I say we're still continuing to make some improvements here. If you have a lot of link tables, it can be hard sometimes to find the one you're looking for. So now you can just type part of the name in the search box and it will filter the set of tables it shows to just show you those. So right now you can see, we go to sheet 2. So this sheet is actually linked to sheet 3 right now, despite the name, because I was changing it earlier. But to relink things, just click the relink button. I can change it back to sheet 2. And now it's linked to sheet 2. Oops. So you can also relink at the data source level. So in this case, I'm changing the whole database, and I've intentionally deleted some of the tables from this database just so that you could see it indicates over here which relinks succeeded and which ones failed. And then I could go investigate why those failed. Actually, I'm going to skip that part because I don't want to show. Okay, so well, you can also create new links through the link table manager now. And depending on which type it is, you'll be taken through a slightly different process. But this is just an alternate way to create a link than using the external data tab. I can also delete links here. Like if I decided I didn't actually need this link, I could just delete it. And then finally, I can also edit links, which basically lets me, I can change the file name here if it was, oops. If it was a SQL source, I could just directly edit the connection string to change the server or other connection elements of the connection string. Okay, that's the link table manager. All right, okay. Did you want to talk more about the roadmap or should I just go into the graph connector?
You could go into it.
Okay, so this is functionality that you may have heard about because we had briefly put it up on our What's New page. We found some issues we needed to fix before we can turn it on for public consumption, but I thought I'd give you a little preview of what we're planning to deliver. So Graph is Microsoft's API for exposing Office data. So if you were writing your own application, you could use Graph to get to your contacts, your email, and basically anything that's stored in Office, you can get to through Graph. So we thought it might make sense to have a connector for Graph from Access so you can view that data directly in Access. To begin with, we're starting with a limited set of data to get from Graph. And again, once we deliver this, we're hoping to get feedback from people about what other sources they might find useful in Graph. So right now, this is the set of things we expose. I'll start with users. So this is all the users in Microsoft, which, as you can imagine, is a lot. So we give you the ability to add OData query strings. Graph, you communicate with Graph using the OData protocol. So to use this, you'll have to learn a little bit about OData, but we let you specify an OData query string. So say I want to just, top is just a simple filter that says give me the top 300. And hold on a minute. So you can see here if I hover over that, oops, that's not the one I just created.
It's the one on top.
That's not. Oh, let me open this one. So this one says it's top 100. Is it in fact the top 100? Yeah, it's the top 100. I'm not sure what happened to the one I just created. But let's close that. Let me show some more complicated ones. So this, for example, is a filter that says I want my groups that are not security enabled and have display names that start with max. So if I said, again, there are a lot of groups in Microsoft, so good to filter that down to a more usable set. In this case, there's 168 of them, and you can see all the display names start with max. I can also select columns. So if I just opened the groups table, it's going to have a lot of columns that I may not care about. So I can tell it I just want a particular set of columns, and it shows me those columns. It also has pulled in the ID column here because that's the primary key on this table, and it always pulls in the primary key. Skip that one. Okay, so also just to show, once you have these link tables, just like any other data source, I can do the normal access things. I can create a form to show the data. I can create reports. So if I created a report on this, I could then that's not what I want. Oops. I had a date time field I wanted to group on, but oh, I see. I was actually creating a report on the demo script. That's why. So I think what I've just hit here is that I didn't filter this group table, so it's got a lot of records in it and may take it a while. Let's see. I might have to stop it. Oop. This is my development machine, so we'll make sure that that doesn't happen when we ship it. One more. Yeah, I'm gonna skip that because I don't want to break it. Okay, so one more I wanted to show was my people is an example of Graph. In addition to displaying the built-in data like my Outlook contacts, it also has certain intelligence built into it. So my people is a list of people that I interact with frequently. Either I've collaborated on documents with them or I've had email exchange with them. And Graph knows about those interactions and then gives me a list of the people that I interact with frequently. And then one final thing I was going to show was you can programmatically access graph data. Oops, I didn't type in. So I have code behind the search button, which is creating a filter like I was showing on the fly using the restriction that I just typed into the text box there. And so it's only searching for names that have EBO in them. So here's our EBO. And then this is just copying the data back into local table where I can add notes. And now I have a local table with his data populated from the Active Directory graph data. And yeah, I'm not going to get into that actually. Just to show, we use transfer database to connect to graph sources the same way we would connect to other data sources. Yeah, actually, this is the slide about what Graph is, which I talked a little bit about. And actually, Tom, I see you had a question saying you can't do top without order by. It does support order by, so you can do an order by and then a top, and it'll select the top based on your order by. Okay, back to Evan.
So Access Web Apps 2013, we retired that, as you know, a couple years ago from SharePoint Online specifically. The next step in the process right now is Access Web Databases 2010. That is in the process of being retired as of right now, and we're leveraging the same momentum and process that we did in 2013. So far, we've pushed the comms to make sure that our customers are aware that this process is coming up. We've also developed an in-application banner that shows, okay, so you guys should know that your web applications will be retired shortly. So do the right precautions and steps to make sure that that is okay with your data. We've also blocked the creation. We've also blocked the creation of the web app databases SharePoint Online. That's something that is still in works. It's in part production. So you will have that replicated across your systems in weeks from now. And then in terms of next steps, by October, we will be pushing the fight to disable application edits, and we will turn that into read-only mode. So that will be reflective in your system probably by November, and then by February, we will be turning off the servers for 2010. So again, this is kind of the same steps that we have taken for 2013. We are just replicating this for 2010. Your data will still be available in SharePoint lists. However, it will be in read-only mode. So we have advised our customers to take the right steps to make sure that they're still able to work and navigate through their data accordingly. Yes, so how can we stay more engaged? This is really, really important to us, as I emphasized a lot at the beginning. Really do send us a lot of feedback. We will respond to your feedback, whether that's through user voice or in-app store feedback. You can also gain additional visibility into what we're working on in the product. There's a public roadmap. There's also an Access blog. I'll be sending the slide afterwards, so you can access all these links to your own extent. There's also support forums and our tech community, which I'm sure you're already very involved in, but we really want to hear from you and hear what you want us to do better within Access. So really stay involved in that. The customer connection side of thing, like you're doing right now, you're here and listening to us talk to you guys through what we're working on in Access. We really do appreciate that. And then in terms of, being more present at events, we would love for you guys to even, talk to some of your own customers or talk to people that you're working with about how you've been able to be successful with the tool and what steps that you have been taking to bring it to the next level. Okay, so this is just more ways to get involved. Like I mentioned before, you can use the Access blog, go into user voice. There's several links for you to get to learn more about what we're working on. And finally, become an Office Insider. This is really important to us because in this case, you'll be able to receive the early exclusive upgrades and new features from an Office 365 perspective. And you'll be able to send us feedback in advance about what kind of new features we're working on and what you think will really help us shape the future of Access in the Office ecosystem. So we really would encourage you to become an Office Insider, as that would be very important to us. And that'll also give you a heads up view about what we're working on developing in the future. And with that, we have some time for a Q&A.
All right, I've enabled everyone's microphone. So if any of you remote people have a question, go ahead and get it out. Also, people here in the room, Shane and Ebo, what do you have?
There's a question came through on Meetup from Mr. Rovelli. He would like to know about the Access apparently letting go the MS ActiveX calendar control, and are there plans for a replacement for that?
I think we'll have to look into exactly what's happened there. Is that something he's saying has changed recently?
Apparently so, yes. It's a user voice thing. 381-70021 is the ID. State-of-the-art replacement for ActiveX MS Calendar.
I think we may not have a. I think the issue may have been that we didn't have a 64-bit version of the calendar. And I don't think we have something on the roadmap yet, but if it's in user voice, it's on our list of things to consider.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Shane, this is Jim Pilcher. I have a question about charting. I've been playing around with it, and something I've noticed is if I have a data source for a chart, and I go in and I start playing with properties and setting up and setting different titles and so on, and then I need to tweak the data source, I've got to reconnect it, and I lose a lot of the stuff I've done. Is that me, or is that the way that it actually works?
So if you're changing, like if you have properties set on the series in your chart,
Yes.
and you change data sources, you may lose things. We do try to preserve as long as the series have the same same name. So if you change from one data source to another table that has the same columns, it should still preserve those things. And if it's not, then you might want to let us know, and we can take a look at it and see if it's something we can fix.
All right, I'll look at that. In particular, I was tweaking one data source. I added a column, and I was required to reconnect it, and it didn't recognize the old columns as they were. But I'll look at it some more and contact you if it's a problem.
Yeah, okay.
Hey Shane, George Young here. Question on sort of the web/Azure connectivity. As you'll recall from the Portland conference last year, that was a topic. You guys talked about deprecating the old Access web database from 2010. Are you able to talk about maybe any plans about making Access work well with Azure SQL Database, or something else in terms of being web and/or cloud friendly?
So I don't think we have anything we're ready to talk about publicly, but it is definitely an area of investment we're looking at. You've probably heard from other sources that Power Apps is Microsoft's solution for mobile and cloud apps going forward, but one of the things that we are looking for is better integration with Access and Power Apps. in addition to Access having better connection with SQL Azure. But I don't have specifics for you right now.
Okay, great. Related question on the quote unquote shrink wrapped on the perpetual. Is there going to be another perpetual version of Access/Office after 2019?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if we've set a specific, if Office has announced a particular date for that, but there are plans to make it another perpetual release, yes.
That will likely be in a couple years from now.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Are the online people unmuted?
Let me ask, are any of the online people, are you trying to talk? Kevin? Okay, they're coming on now, George.
We're here.
So, hey,
Hey, Kevin, you want to give Shane some static?
I do. I wanted to ask Shane if he's getting any sleep.
If I'm what?
You get any sleep?
Oh yeah, actually, Kevin, I assume is referring to the fact that I have a newborn. She's almost 4 months old now, and she's actually, from what I've heard about other people's babies, she's pretty easy. She's sleeping through the night now, so we're doing
Nice.
all right. Yeah,
I mean, she's probably gonna be a hellion as a teenager then.
could be.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ferrero, I saw that you had a slide that said roadmap, and you kind of skimmed over that pretty quickly, or at least didn't touch upon it. Is there anything else that is part of the roadmap that we know about, or that we'd like to know about?
To the extent of information that we can share with you today, the ones that we were covering in the roadmap were mostly the Graph connector that we plan to implement very soon, as well as the deprecation or the retirement of the Access web apps. Those are the two that fall under the kind of roadmap section. But as we continue to develop new features and continue to see what other improvements we can make, we'll make sure we make that publicized as quick as we can.
And if you haven't seen it, there is an O365 roadmap where we will add features as they become public.
All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Okay, then I guess we'll call it an evening. I want to. Oh, yes, someone.
Did I hear a question?
I thought I heard something.
If there was, they're not speaking up now, Evo. So I guess we'll end the session. Let you two go home.
Recording,
yes.
Not the session.
And I will be sending you all a copy of the deck following this presentation too. If any other questions come up, our email is on the appendix section, so you can access that on our resources. So here you can see a list of different resources. I don't know why, for some reason, Shane's email isn't on there, but I'll add that before sending it out. So these are a lot of different resources that you can access to find a lot of different information if anything is unclear. And if you do happen to have any other questions after this session, please reach out to us. We are more than happy to help you, and we want to see you become successful with Access. So really appreciate the time for letting us talk here. I really hope that we gave you a good idea of all the work that we're doing to improve the product, but it doesn't stop here. We want to continue keeping in touch with you all, and we want to hear from you about what we can do better. So.
Well, thank you very much for